Hello, everyone, and welcome to Plant Based Cooking. Please excuse our technical difficulties today. AARP empowers people to choose how they live as they age. AARP is a nonpartisan 501c4 organization that has over 420,000 members in Alabama. AARP's role is to advocate for those 50 plus and their families. We appreciate your patience with us today. We are running a new thing today and just mess things up.
Everything's great now, so glad to be here today.
Chef Kim, what are we cooking?
We are doing a creamy roasted tomato soup and grilled cheese sandwich.
Sounds great to me, especially on these cold days.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, take over.
Okay, so I've already gotten a little jump start here today. So I've got our onions, our celery, and carrots already sauteed, because carrots are pretty stiff, and so we wanted to soften them up a bit. And I also have roasted tomatoes, and it says it in the recipe. I'm doing a combination today. I'm doing some roasted tomatoes as well as some sun-dried tomatoes. So we're going to heat this back up. And to this, we're going to add our minced garlic. So it says 6 to 8 cloves, but you know me, I'm going for the full 8. Okay. All right. And as we get that going in there a little bit, we're going to add a little seasoning. And you're going to kind of just season this lightly in stages, just to make sure all of the flavors are developed. Okay. Sizzling up a bit. Once that heats back up, we're going to add in our crushed tomatoes. So this is just a can of whole peel tomatoes, and I have taken the tomatoes and squished them. I don't like to buy the tomatoes that are already crushed. I feel like you're getting mostly tomato water, so I like to do a rough chop on them myself. And if this soup was going to stay unpureed, then I would, it would still be lovely because the tomatoes are just really little bitty torn pieces. So heating that through, and then I'm going to add in our other tomatoes. And like I said, I'm going to puree these, so it's not going to matter. But what I have done with the sun-dried tomatoes is I've taken them and I've put them in hot water so that they soften back up. Because a lot of times when you get them, they're still a little stiff. And this is our roasted tomatoes. Okay. And in full transparency, again, the recipe for the soup calls for a half of an onion, but I took the other half and mixed it in with the tomatoes when I roasted them. So I always like to have a lot of roasted flavor in it. I'm sure you probably had roasted salsa, tomato salsa, or like a smoked tomato salsa that tastes amazing. And so, just building on those layers. If you don't want to use the onion, you can certainly use some shallots. You can even roast your garlic and put it in there. That would be a nice addition. So we're just heating this through, and I know this looks like a lot of garlic. Kind of is. But this is 1 cup of garlic. Basil, excuse me. This is 1 cup of basil, and it's packed. So it's not as much as it looks like, actually, but it's packed in. And I know on the recipe it kind of is on the latter part of it, but you want to go ahead and have those flavors meld together with the tomatoes. This makes that a really delicious addition. So I'm going to let that continue to heat up. And also, when we reconstituted those sun-dried tomatoes, I kept that tomato water just in case we wanted to use thin it thin the soup out a little bit if it got too thick. And so you can just keep that on hand to add it to the soup. It's sort of like tomato stock.
So we just add it if we need it.
Right. Because we're still going to add in our oat milk and puree it. But if you just feel like you need to loosen it up, you can. And everybody, there's tomato bisque, there's creamy tomato soup. There's all different kinds of layers and textures to soup. So it's just kind of what you like the best. And so I know I said that we were going to flavor things as we went along. I have not put any more seasoning in here yet because the roasted tomatoes had a little basil and a little sea salt and avocado oil on them. So I'm going to taste this now. It's nowhere near done, but I just want to check for seasoning. It's pretty good now without everything in here. I'd probably add a little bit more as it continues to heat through. And a lot of times when I'm making like a tomato sauce for a pasta dish, I'll add a little white balsamic vinegar or just any balsamic vinegar. Dark is fine. But just a little, like just a tablespoon. It just helps to bring that out a little bit. So I'm going to go in now with our oat milk. And you can use almond milk. You can use whatever kind of plant-based milk that you like. Cashew milk. There's so many out there now to choose from. You can't lose. So, right. So I can already tell this creaminess coming about. I'm gonna add in a little more seasoning because our milk is not seasoned. And to that, I'm going to add a little bit of salt. Just know it's going to need a little pinch. And then we'll bring everything back up and taste it again. We're going to heat this soup up on a burner over here so that we don't interfere in what we've got going. Taste it one more time. That's really good. It's really good. So,
Chef, is that just with the spices that you told us to add?
That's just the sea salt, the black pepper, and granulated garlic. If you want to be fancy and go for something else, you can certainly do more. You can put a bay leaf in here if you want it. Just make sure you take it out before you puree it. To the roasted tomatoes, you can use Italian seasoning, great rosemary, oregano, some fresh thyme, some granulated garlic, sea salt, and roast that. But I really wanted to keep it sort of simple, and since the basil was such a standout character in this, I just used basil. So, all right. So we're gonna start to ladle this a little bit. It needs to build up on its flavors and stuff. Actually, I'm gonna just go ahead and put this on the burner, and then we'll start our sandwich. How about that? We'll come back and puree this. But like I said, very simple, very quick and easy. All right. So here I've got a little skillet, and it has some butter, some vegan butter that's already been melted. Okay. Move some of this out of the way here. And we're going to heat it back up. And, you know what? I forgot something pretty important. This is a little bit of vodka that I'm going to add to our soup.
What's the vodka do?
So the vodka you could think of it as I'm replacing that little bit of vinegar that I talked about,
Yes.
and so it would do the same purpose. But it just kind of brings something different to the soup, like it just kind of levels it up. Um, yeah, it just balances it out, makes it really rounded flavors. That was really nice, just with that little bit of vodka. And you can use vermouth if you don't have vodka. So I've got our cheeses already and our bread. Just get whatever your favorite bread is that you like, your vegan bread. But since those breads tend to be, well, not all of them, like sourdough is vegan, but a lot of the breads tend to be sort of stiff. You need extra butter, I would say. So you could even spread the butter on the outside of the bread as well. But I think I've got a pretty fair amount of butter in here. And I'll tilt the pan a little bit so you all can see. There's a good amount there for flipping back and forth a little bit.
So, Chef, what cheeses do you use in your grilled cheese?
So this is provolone. This is a vegan provolone here, but you can use add some mozzarella to it. There are different American cheese versions of vegan cheeses, and so you just really got to find a brand that you like, find one that you like how it tastes. You really can't go wrong if you start with a mozzarella version, which is probably already shredded. And so if you want to start there, you can't go wrong. So I'm gonna let that get a little color on it. I hear our soup going over here, finally getting a little boil. I'm going to turn this down. And then we're going to puree that as soon as we get the sandwich flipped again. And it's already starting to form a little crust, which is really nice. Cover that surface area with butter again.
Approximately how much butter did you start with?
So I probably have almost a fourth of a cup. So just a really, something like this.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that's really probably more like 2 ounces, but which is not a fourth of a cup. But so it may be like around a third of a cup, which might be too much, but I have done it where I have less butter in the pan and add it, and it doesn't, I don't have a good experience with it. So I just decided to go with more butter this time. So this is it here. As you can see, I'm going to turn our heat really, really down low and set this aside for a moment. And then we're going to start pureeing our soup, and then we're going to plate up.
It's a really simple recipe.
Yeah. So there we have that. And so the Vitamix is going to be loud, folks. I think we are used to that by now. And I'm just going to put a little bit in here at a time. I'll definitely make sure that we have our sun-dried tomatoes pureed. Just trying to do it where you don't make a mess. But this was something that was really quick. Of course, I had done a lot of chopping and prepping beforehand. So that's the biggest thing. You chop up your tomatoes, you chop up your garlic. You got 1 carrot, 1 rib of celery, and half of an onion. And it wasn't a big onion.
So on this mixture here,
Mm-hmm.
If we made this soup in advance, how far in advance could we make this up if we were going to serve it on the weekend?
You can make it a day or so ahead. It will keep for if you don't eat it all. It'll keep for a few days. So it just is a great thing to go ahead and do a pretty decent batch of it so you can have for another time. So I'm going to turn this on now. I'm going to turn it on low to kind of just break up those sun-dried tomatoes.
So we can no longer see the tomatoes and the basil.
Right.
It's all together.
Right. And I'm probably going to do another little batch to finish it out. And, you know, there's the consistency. Like I said, if you wanted to add a little more liquid to it at this point, you certainly could. And you'll probably have a few little basil flakes in there coming off the spoon. Okay.
So, Chef, approximately how many people would this serve?
I would say you probably get about 4 to 6 servings of soup, possibly 8, depending if you're serving like a cup of soup or if you're doing, you know, it as a meal. Which I would think you kind of do it as a meal because it's you got your grilled cheese with it. Okay. I'll do this again.
Is this something that we could also prepare and freeze?
You could freeze it. I don't know how it would do with the plant-based milk, like if it would break or not. I have not tried that, so you know, might have to do a little trial and error there. But that would be my only concern is if it would sort of break. It wasn't a lot of milk, but just don't ever know. So you try. Okay. Put that back on and warm it up just a tad. And we're going to start plating up. All right. So we've got our delicious soup here. Just put some of that in this bowl. A little bit more. Okay. We'll top it with a little fresh basil leaves. Okay. Okay. And put this aside. We'll go ahead and take off this grilled cheese. Still nice and hot on the inside. We're gonna just cut this in wedges, lay on top of each other. This cheese, and see how perfectly that cheese melts. Like you would not know this was vegan cheese at all. So And there you have it. That is our creamy roasted tomato soup with a delicious grilled cheese sandwich.
So in less than 25 minutes, we've come up with a meal that we could come in the evening and prepare.
Absolutely.
Well, Chef, we thank you for that. Folks, our next class is going to be February 23rd, and we look forward to seeing you then. And this time, we hope to not have any technical difficulties. Take care. Thanks, Chef.
Thank you. Bye-bye.